Time now to serve the tea with Dr. Luke's as we take a look at gossip, speculation, and news from around the QMJHL and the world of junior hockey. We'll start with the wider world of junior hockey and a tweet from Ryan Kennedy of the Hockey News, who said earlier this week he was speaking to USHL Commissioner Glenn Heffernan, who claims his league has interest in 13 teams for expansion, including one in Canada. This is noteworthy because ever since the rule change with the NCAA, we've seen a lot of Americans come up to the CHL, and one league that's been losing players to the CHL is the USHL. So they have a vested interest in trying to get some of those players back. Perhaps they could lure some Canadians into their league with a Canadian franchise. That is a story we're watching. Speaking of that pipeline between the CHL and the NCAA, a trio of commits to the NCAA to tell you about from the QMJHL. 19-year-old forward Ross Campbell of Charlottetown will play university hockey after his overage season is done. He's committed to the University of Maine. He had 58 points in 52 games last season. Another forward in the Maritimes, 18-year-old Liam Kilfoyle of Halifax, has announced his commitment to Northeastern University. He had 46 points in 62 games with the Mooseheads last year. And a player in tonight's game, 19-year-old defenseman Carl Otto-Magnusson, who's making his Q debut tonight, has announced his commitment to the University of Connecticut. He was the 79th overall pick in the import draft this year. CHL has announced one player from each of the three major junior leagues that will be on the roster that takes on Team USA at the CHL USA Top Prospect Challenge come November 25th, November 26th, Calgary and Lethbridge. The player that's first named from the QMJHL is 18-year-old Xavier Villeneuve of the Blainville-Boisbriand Armada. Last year, the offensive-minded blue liner had 62 points in 61 games. Some bad news out of Blainville-Boisbriand comes in the form of an injury to Bill Zonin, big off-season acquisition for the Armada from the Huskies. He suffered an injury at NHL training camp as he was a first-rounder of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Last year, he had 83 points in 64 games. Again, he was traded from Rouyn-Noranda to Blainville-Boisbriand in the off-season, but he'll be sidelined 4 weeks with an undisclosed injury. Gatineau Olympiques have named 19-year-old Slovenian defenseman Jan Golucic their team captain. The Tampa Bay prospect had 35 points in 58 games last year. Alternates are 20-year-old forward Justin Boissel, 20-year-old Jeremy Demay-LaRouche on the back end, and a pair of 17-year-old forwards who were first-round draft picks of the Olympiques, Maxime Dubé and Simon Xavier Cyr. A couple of trades to tell you about in the QMJHL, and you know this one if you're following the Eagles. Eagles have moved 20-year-old blue liner Xavier Dag to the Chicoutimi Saguenay. Last year, Dag had 28 points in 64 games. In return, the Eagles pick up a fifth-round pick in 2026 and a third-round pick in 2028. With the trade, Chicoutimi has released Connor Haynes as he is the odd man out in the 20-year-old pitcher. He had 5 goals in 30 games last season. Sags making another trade as they've dealt import forward Corny Korniev to the Victoriaville Tigre. He was the odd man out in the European pitcher after the return from NHL training camp of Maxime Schaefer, who the Sags picked this year after he was drafted by the Washington Capitals. Korniev had 21 points in 64 games last year. The Sags pick up a fourth-rounder in exchange for Korniev. With the news, the Tigre are releasing Ignatiy Shumilev, the 17-year-old Russian who was the 103rd pick in the import draft this year. Suspension to tell you about in the QMJHL. Baie-Comeau's Louis Charles Plord has been given 1 game for slashing. Last year he had 64 points in 64 games. Q has released its Team of the Week for opening week, and the Player of the Week is Blainville-Boisbriand's Matthew Gosselin. The 19-year-old forward had 7 points in 2 games. The other forwards are 18-year-old Tyson Gauguin of Newfoundland, who had 6 points in 2 games, and 20-year-old Alex Mercier of the Moncton Wildcats, who had 5 points in 2 games. Defenseman on this week's team, 19-year-old Evan Depatie of Rimouski, who had 4 points in 2 games, and overage captain of Victoriaville, Simon-Pierre Brunet, as he had 4 assists in 2 games on the blue line. Goalie of the week is Rimouski's William Lasselle, the 18-year-old at a 2-0 record with a .906 save percentage. New CHL top 10 is out. Blainville-Boisbriand Armada holding at the number 1 position. Chicoutimi drops down to number 7, and the Newfoundland Regiment enter at number 8.